Hello, this is Mike at Gamefromscratch, and welcome to another A Closer Look At series. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the game engine PlayCanvas. PlayCanvas is an open source, MIT licensed HTML5 based 3D game engine. You can see the webpage in front of me, the PlayCanvas homepage. That's actually a 3D world being rendered in 3D using WebGL. Behind the scenes, WebGL is the actual underlying technology. This used to be a bit of a more of a problem than it is, but now Internet Explorer and Safari on iOS have both joined the WebGL game, so its proliferation is getting a lot higher. So using WebGL as your underlying technology is very much an option now. So today we're going to take a bit of an overview look of what PlayCanvas includes. The whole idea behind the Closer Look At series is so that if you're evaluating what technology to use, but you don't want to spend hours upon hours trying to figure it out yourself, I'm kind of giving you a bit of an guided tour in a much more condensed period of time. I'm going to try to keep this video a little bit shorter. I have a tendency to babble on a little bit more than I should. So let's jump right in. First off, there's actually a companion post to this. I've already done it. It's up on Gamefromscratch, a closer look at the PlayCanvas game engine. You can see it right here. We're about to cover the exact same information, just in video form. But so you know, there is actually a post form of this as well. So just head on over to Gamefromscratch.com. And once again, it's called A Closer Look at the PlayCanvas game engine. I'll put it in the comments below as well. Let me just break that off, because I'm going to use that as a bit of a reference to make sure I cover the exact same stuff. So here we are. This is PlayCanvas. Like I said, behind the scenes, it is open source. MIT, you can go to GitHub. There's a number of projects. Let me just bring them up. Oops, can we focus? GitHub. Let Google do the magic. PlayCanvas. You'll see they have a couple of projects available in addition to just the PlayCanvas engine. So you got your base engine itself. The tooling, I'm not sure the extent of what the tooling is in there. This is something I need to look at in deeper form, but I don't believe you get full integration. So your drag and drop model importing, stuff like we're going to see very shortly, isn't necessarily there. But the game engine itself, the technology, the renderer, the scene graph, all that stuff is open sourced and free for you to use. They do want to make money. We'll get into that in a little bit about exactly how the accounts work, but they're very reasonable in my opinion. So they have a number of other projects that are up and available on GitHub as well, but the key one right here would be obviously this one. They've also got their resources available as a separate site, and then some Sublime Text code completion files as well. All right, so head on back over to PlayCanvas itself. So PlayCanvas is it's available in a couple of ways. First off, you can actually download it from GitHub and run it as a local server. Edit your code locally, use your traditional editors as you prefer. Myself, I like WebStorm. Some people like Sublime Text. As you saw, there are code completion files available for you. But you can use it as a traditional, locally run code editor as much as you want. However, you can also run it in the web. And they've done a good job of making their tools, first off, available in the web, and second off, collaborative. So if you're working with a team, it can be really, really nice. However, there are some issues here, and that's where the pricing kind of comes in. In my opinion, this is a very fair pricing scheme, but you should be aware of it right up front. So the free version itself, the biggest thing is going to be this guy. 200 megs is actually fairly large, but you can't have a private project. That should, I believe, basically mean that your code's accessible to anybody and your work is accessible to anybody. So basically, if you want to work in private, you want to do a closed source offline game, you need to pay. And that's when you get into Pro Tier 1, and here you're looking at $15 a month. So you can have a team of up to 5, and you can have up to 5 private projects. And the rest is just a matter of adding more projects, adding more space, and adding more people to the team. And your prices run between $15 and $60. So the other aspect here is your iOS export. I'm not sure if you can get around this. It is ultimately a WebGL application. You could probably bring it down, package it in like Cordova or another WebGL HTML5 packaging tool, and ship it yourself. But they do make it a one-click zip file that you load into Xcode and publish out to iOS. So if you are wanting to publish to iOS, it's also part of the Pro package. There's also org-based ones here. The biggest thing here, price jumped quite a bit, and it includes support. So that's your basics. So more or less, the free version, you can use it for teams of up to 2, and in the open. So if you want to have it private, you want to work on your own code hidden, you're either using the local version or you are buying the Pro 5. So that's the pricing level. And you know what? Software companies need to eat. I totally get it. This seems like a fair enough pricing scheme to me. So I approve personally. But if that's a deal breaker to you, better to know it up front. So today we're going to be using the free version. The free version is 100% feature complete with all the other ones, unless you consider support and iOS export to be features, which I guess iOS export actually is a feature. So that is the one missing feature. So there's no iOS export, but otherwise you're dealing with the same thing, same tools, same functionality, same library, same API, same everything else. That's it. Okay, so you come in, you sign up, you register for an account. I've already done it. You actually have to register sort of twice. First off, you create an account that actually owns everything. So your parent account, or administrative account, and then you create a developer on your team. As you saw, the free version came with up to 2 developers. So I've already logged in and created using my email address, and then I had to create a user, so I've got Bob Dole as well. So go ahead and create and log in. So my email is associated with that user. So see, welcome back, Bob Dole. So in you come. So here is the dashboard. Welcome to kind of your project management page. Well, that's not. This is where you can create your basic projects. You can maintain them. You can edit them. So here's one I've already created. I'll pop it up. Here you can see the project management screen. Come in here. You can see the assets that compose it. You can add new ones, so you can delete existing assets. You can also see all the code files that exist. I could come here, click in, get a bit ahead of myself, but it'll bring it up in the editor. Coincidentally, there is an editor. Let's jump back out of that. You can integrate to GitHub or Bitbucket. Ooh, I think I made a mistake there on my text one. Anyways, you can access the code elsewhere. We'll look at this when we get into the code a little bit more. There's a couple of options there. We'll talk about them later. So here's where you can manage your assets, manage creating new projects, and publishing. Publishing basically just makes it available as an external URL. So when I published this guy, it created it and made it available at that URL. Till then, there's no external URL. It's fine to use. Then finally, let's go over here to your settings. Your settings are mostly, there's a couple key things to be aware of here. You set your resolution here. This is your rendering resolution, and then how to deal with it. So you've got your fill modes. You can either fill the window, maintain the aspect ratio, which is called black bars more or less, or don't do anything, which keeps it so it's a 720 by 480 window always, regardless to the host resolution. So that's how you deal with multiple resolutions with PlayCanvas. And then here's where you can invite other people to be part of your team. Over here, turn physics on or off, turn private assets on or off if you're paying. And then finally, they have a new editor available. I'm actually going to use the classic editor because beta. So I try to stay away from beta products when talking about it, but there is something coming. It's new, it's cleaner. I only played with it a little bit, but I did find immediately I liked the way 3D navigation worked better, and it did just seem cleaner across the board. I didn't check to see if it adds code completion. It's one of the things that's brutally missing right now in my opinion. So hopefully that's part of the new editor. I don't know. I didn't use it that much. We're going to stick with the non-beta version. So let me just head on back to the... Okay, how do I get back? All right, let's go back to my projects page. Maybe it's home. Okay, so I've already created this one project. I've actually shared it out. So I did publish it, so there is an actual iframe of it running. So I need to create a new one. I get up to 2, so I'll go ahead and create another one anyways. You can either start as a completely blank project or as a starter kit. A starter kit is basically a pre-rolled game that you start from. There's 2 available, and that's what we're going to go ahead and do again. So you have your 3D model viewer, which is, again, a simple 3D model viewer, or platform sample. And we're going to use the platform sample. And all you do basically is select it here, and YouTube demo, let's get that right. Demo of PlayCanvas in action. You have no option for public except for because we don't have a private account. So we'll go ahead and make it public, and that's it. So we're going to bring in all of the assets for here. If you didn't want that, you didn't want any of the starter material, you can start from a completely blank slate by just doing a create a project. But we're going to start with the platform sample. It's a little bit more impressive. And just click create. I'm going to pause for a second, have a drink. This normally doesn't take very long, actually, so I'm a little. My internet seems to be more of the issue than theirs, but I'll be right. All right, so it's done. I am now not longer parched, and we have a new project. So once again, you're seeing the same stuff, assets, all this stuff. But what we actually want up here is the editor. This is the heart of the online tools. And let's just bring that up, and we shall pick our game, and the editor shall load. Unfortunately, this might make the demo a little bit annoying if my internet is not being nice, but... And... Okay, I messed up. This is the new editor. I did not want to show you the new editor. Okay, so let's just close that down. Go into settings and turn use new editor to off. I'm not sure why that got set. And let's launch that again. So that was the new editor, quick preview you saw. And now back to the old editor. Now, you will find things are running a little bit more sluggish than normal. That's on my end, I think, because I never experienced this before. But as I said, my internet's been acting up at home all day. So that's probably me, to be honest. All right, so welcome to the editor. We could go full screen if you wanted, etc., but this should be fine. Kind of a couple of key things make this up. Right here, you have your 3D view. This is where you compose your scene, holding down the Alt button in combination with different mouse buttons do different things. So, oops, Alt and left button is orbit, Alt and middle mouse button is pan, and your scroll wheel is zoom. Now let's actually do a little bit of zooming. So you can see what's going on here. So this is a very simple 2D platform game, which is actually in 3D. And here's your character right there, your platforms, etc. So let me just, oops, forgot to hold Alt. All right, there we go. Zoom in a bit and pen. So there's your main character being controlled by a couple of components. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Normal background and some platforms. It's all done in 3D, 2D. So more or less, we're just using a fixed camera to look at a 3D scene to make it feel like a 2D game. And let's go ahead and actually take a look at the game that's created by this starter kit. This part can take a couple seconds, but it's not too long. So more or less, this is how you run your code. Just hit the play button, and then boom, welcome to the game. So arrow keys to navigate, and then spacebar to jump. And you get to the end. Assuming I get to the end. Oops, I missed. And then you hit a thing, and then new levels come in, and it starts all over. But as you can see, it's a very basic 2D style game that's actually in 3D, composed of 3D objects. Okay, I'm pretty awful today. Let's close that down. But that's the starter kit that you see, and there's more logic to it. There's things going on behind the scenes. We'll look at it a little bit closer, but not too much detail. But this is your starting game if you choose a kit. So once again, you could go with a completely from scratch, start everything from yourself if you want. Your editor here is composed of a couple of key pieces. You have your nav bar across the top and your 3D view right here. Now, if you come from 3D Studios Max background and you prefer a quad view, that is an option. So you can have your top, your left, your right, your perspective all kind of shown at once, or you can go back to a single view like so. This is your primary place for placing assets in the world and interacting with them. Over here you have the oddly named Pack Explorer. This is more or less your scene graph or your scene tree. The things that make up your game as the root. Your player is composed of a model and a bunch of components. We'll touch on that in a second. Your level is an entity, and your entity is composed of other entities. So your level has a level 1, a level 2. Level 1 itself is composed of the background and then instances of different platforms. Now, when I say instances of, that's because these are models that we've added to the scene. So look down here. Let's just filter to just models. You can see the various different, so the platform 1x1, 1x2, 1x3, etc. So all your various different components that make up your world are down here. And then instancing things into the world, you can either, so platform right here, I can go ahead and add a new entity and then model and pick the model accordingly, or I can just drag it in like so. It's in the wrong spot, so let's move this up to here. And there it is. That's manipulate it. It's there. There's your 1x3 platform added to the scene. So you can you organize it this way as a hierarchy of entities. As you saw, it came in at the root of the node, and I just added it in under platforms and into here. But it's simply a matter of drag and drop or right-click an instance. One sec. Now, one of these areas where 3D engines either succeed or fail, basically, is bringing your own assets in. Coincidentally, one of the things that I just read that they added is real-time preview. So in the future, you're not just going to see teapots here. You should actually see an instance of the model, which will make things a lot cleaner, to be honest. But that's how simple it is to actually bring things in. Now let's look at how to actually add a model to the game. I'm going to flip on back here to our assets folder here. I'm just going to go ahead and add a new asset. And you literally drag and drop. Now, PlayCanvas for 3D supports a couple of formats. You've got Collada, FBX, and 3DS are the three model formats that are supported out of the box. Now, FBX is the preferred format. If you're unaware, FBX was basically a format created by, a company Autodesk ultimately bought, but the whole idea behind it was going to be the back-end interchange format for all of the Autodesk programs, and that's essentially what it's become. So if you use Max Maya, Motion Builder, Mudbox or Filmbox, whatever the hell they're calling it now, any of the Autodesk programs, the FBX is sort of the internal format for talking between. It's the interchange format for all of these different applications. So it does make sense to use it. Now, one of the problems is Blender has traditionally done a really crap job with FBX. It's because it's a closed proprietary format, so in order to use it, they had to Whiteroom reverse engineer it. However, they have focused recently on improving their Collada support, their FBX support, and their Collada support, actually, and it has gotten better. Now, there are some requirements with PlayCanvas to make FBX exports work properly, and you'll see in a second there are actually a couple of issues too, but nothing insurmountable, so don't worry about that. Let's fire up Blender. And there's also the very distinct possibility that I'm making a mistake here, but I'm following along the instructions and things aren't working 100%. But what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and create a 3D model textured and export it out to PlayCanvas, and we'll see how much work's involved here. So if you're completely unfamiliar with Blender, just completely ignore what I'm doing right now. This is a very different subject for a very different time. But basically what I'm doing, I'm taking in a straight 3D cube, and now I'm going to unwrap it, UV unwrap. UVs are like the coordinate system used to map a texture onto a 3D object. So just use a smart project. And there. And so now we've actually unwrapped this model. Let's go over here, and we'll bring up an image here. So there it is unwrapped. Think of it like taking a pair of scissors and turning a 3D object into a flat 2D surface. So now we can paint on it. So the next thing we need to do is actually add a texture. Let's assign this to him, and then we'll go over here to our texture, and we'll create a new one. Our type is image, and we want to use UV mapping, and we just created one, and we'll use the UV map. So basically we're just saying use this mapping to draw this texture onto this surface. So now we need a texture. We're just going to go ahead and create a new one, and we'll call it my texture. This name unfortunately gets lost as part of this export, and we'll just make a color grid like so. So we just created a new texture called my texture, and this is it right here. Let me just make a new window yet again. All right, so down here we shall now load our new texture. Ta-da! Okay, so this is our image. Now, what we want to ideally do with FBX, and from a 3D Studios Max or Maya perspective, is what you need to do is embed your texture. This is supported in Blender too, but it doesn't always work. So we're going to go ahead and what you can normally do is pack image or pack as ping, but I'm actually going to save it as an image instead. We'll just toss that on my desktop. Where did my desktop go? There it is. And my texture, that's a good name. All right, so save as image. So now we have a texture applied to our surface. Should be active. So now if I come over here to 3D view with the material on, there you go. So you can see it is now a textured object. Like so. With why are you looking that bad? Let's go to rendered. So there you go. There is our object in the scene. Let's now export it. So we're going to export it. Just go to File, Export, and we want FBX. And there it goes. Okay, so once again, I want my desktop, and we shall call this my model.fbx. And there's a couple of export options you're going to want to go with here. If you find, I actually don't remember right hand if what PlayCanvas has for the up vector, but you may want to be changing that here. I'm just dumping out a cube, so I don't really care at this point. But if your thing comes in rotated 90 degrees or upside down or whatever, this is where you're going to want to play with it in the export. We just want to export the selected objects. In this case, otherwise you would end up exporting your entire scene, which has lights and cameras, etc. in it. We only really want that. We could also switch this down to just include just the mesh. And finally, and most importantly, what we want to do is do path mode as copy and embed texture as true. That causes the texture to be copied in and part of the file. Now, the reality is that part isn't really working for me, but we shall see. Okay, so there we go. We have now created our FBX file. It should be sitting on my desktop. And my model FBX, there it is. And you just bring it here and drop it in. And it now is being uploaded and it's available. So now I should scroll down here. You'll see my model was brought in and my texture was brought in. And if you click on my model, you will also see that it consists of my model and a material. Okay, so we now have a model for our game. That's how much work is involved in bringing in an asset. So pretty easy for the most part. Now come over here and hit the reload button. And my model now appears. Let's drag one into the world and bring it up. See, and that time it worked perfectly. Nice. So that combination of export got me my texture, and it worked perfectly. So that's it. That is quite literally bringing your asset into the world, textured and as it appeared. So let's look at the Blender. There you go. See your axis. Wow. Why are you being so slow on that mode? All right, my computer in general is just being really slow right now. Let's get back to material mode. Ooh, I'm in edit mode. My bad. Here, let's undo that. So, your orientation is not being preserved between the two. So that's what I was talking about. So like D4, E4, and as you see, you're not matching up. So it's actually... oh, annoying light being annoying. Come on, light. Oh, out of edit mode, object mode. Come on. And let's bring our light over this side. Ooh. Where did I... Let's get rid of it completely. You know what? Doesn't matter. Anyways, this is where you're talking when you do your export. Your orientation is slightly different. So it's this guy right here. You're probably going to want a different up vector. So you're going to want to play around a little bit to get things to be consistent when you come in. Or let's exit out Blender. Or you could just easily, once you've actually brought it in, and I need to show you this anyways, left click it once to actually edit it. Second time, picks the material. You see the material editor here. Let's click it one more time. Now, what you're seeing here with the object selected in 3D, you've got the move manipulators and the axis is available. So red is generally your x-axis. You grab it here, and it moves accordingly. And you see over here in the attribute editor, as I move it on the X, it's moving on the X. So this will tell me, all right, so here, in and out then, in this world, is their Z-axis. And that's the difference, because Blender's a Y up. So you're going to want to switch it to being, sorry, it's a Z up. You're going to want to switch it to being Y up to match if you want your things to work right. But that's your basic movement option. And that can be done by selecting here. And you can switch to rotate. And again, you've got your axis to manipulate. You can modify it this way. Or why don't I have the other axis? There we go. So you can move it along orbit in each axis using the widgets. And then finally, you got scale. And you can scale it in one axis or in all three at once. So those are your manipulators. Now, a very classic combination keyboard-wise is the W key, the E key, and the R key. If you use Maya or Macs, these are the exact standard choices for these three operations. So the W key is move, the E key is rotate, the R key is scale. And then in theory, you should be able to pick here and then, no, you can't. can only do single axis at a time. Okay, so that is placing an object in 3D, and as you can see, we imported this sucker in almost no time. So you can bring your assets into this thing really easily. It supports animation as well. There are some guides to how to do so. Speaking of which, the documentation on that is pretty thorough, so it could get you most of the way there. Like I said, when I first did this, I actually had a problem where my texture didn't come in. I had to add the texture myself. And if you had that if you run into that as well, you may have to come in and modify the material. Now you'll notice if I go back here, you get the material comes up. All you have to do then is come into diffuse and make sure your texture is selected. That's it. So that's what I had to do manually last time. This time I didn't. So it's a combination of importing and export. And the reality is, this goes wrong on every game engine everywhere. So getting assets into Unity from Blender, you're going to run into problems. Getting assets into Unity from somewhere else, just as big of a problem. Getting them into Unreal from Modo or whatever. There's just one of those facts of game dev life. So you're going to run into little hiccups. This time I didn't actually. So it worked perfectly and flawlessly. When I did it on the text version, I didn't get my texture, and I had to set it manually using this system. So that is one of the issues, but as you saw, getting your assets in is really, really simple. They automatically show up here in your palette, and then you set them as attributes over here in the material editor. So let's go back to the UI here for a second. We've already now dealt with most of it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but as again, down here is your palette. You can filter between the types of things that are displayed. You can use this to drag and drop things into the scene as needed. Over here is basically your scene graph or hierarchy. As you saw when we added the platform, or in this case, my model, we want to instead say move it into the level. There, it is now parented to the level. Oops, I actually missed. On level. There. So now it's part of the level, which doesn't make any sense, but that's what we did. Or you can actually delete things from here as well. So that's your basic application nav point. Now your next point here, and this one's kind of critical to understanding how PlayCanvas works, but if you've worked with Unity already, this component-based design is going to totally make sense to you. But let's go ahead and look at the player here. The player is in the scene. So there we've got it selected, and you see that we're in move mode, so that the operators are coming up. But if you look over here at the attribute editor, these top level ones are your entity attributes. Those are just positioning and name stuff. So you can rename it and reposition it using keyboard here, or again, you can drag it around here if you wish. Now the next thing are these guys. And this is pretty cool because these are components. This is a component-based game engine. So you build your assets out of either a hierarchy of entities like this, where a player has a model, or the player has components. And the things that we've got right here are a rigid body, which means that it's controlled by physics. And then you set all the corresponding aspects to the rigid body here. It's got a collider, which is a capsule, which you can see being shown up around here. So we could switch that out, say, to being a box if we wanted to, or a sphere, or we can go back to being a capsule. This is another component that is added. So you add this into your player, and now that player is capable of having collisions. And then finally is scripts. And this one's kind of critical. So the logic that's actually controlling this character, it has a script component attached to it, and it has these three scripts directly attached. So player input.js, which is controlling keyboard input, your platform character controller, which is basically your character, and damageable, which I believe just publishes this property, so it now has health. And you can see that from these scripts, there are settings that are exported that you can edit, things like the move impulse or the health remaining, etc. So any of these scripts that you click, you go in and you can get their integrated editor. So ultimately, you create your scene by adding entities, and you make your entities by adding components to them. I'll go back to our player, and if I right-click here over in the scene graph or the Pack Explorer, I can go ahead and I can add any of these different components to this character. On top, I could also create my own components, same way as I could create new entities. And that's kind of essentially it. It's a very neat system. It's very clean. Inheritance via composition is becoming more and more of the way to do things, and they've done a clean, nice job of it. So it's a good way of moving game logic into discrete, reusable pieces or components, which is what they are. Now let's jump onto programming for a second. So this character, when you press the arrow key, what is happening? Well, that's firing off this player input script. Now let's go ahead and click it. And it brings you up to the integrated editor. Now, the integrated editor has a couple features and a couple features missing. There's no debugger built in, so it's an HTML5 game. You can debug using your browser, obviously, so I can understand why they wouldn't put effort there. So if you want to set breakpoints, etc., on your code, you're going to have to do it using the debug tools as opposed to the integrated IDE. Not a huge deal. Now, what is missing, unfortunately, is player input dot no code completion, which I hate. So when I'm learning a new game engine, etc., it's a huge thing to have code completion, and sadly, we don't have that right now. But otherwise, there are inspectors here for your warnings. So, for example, these guys don't have semicolons to terminate them, which is an optional thing in JavaScript. So that's not necessarily an error, but you can see the informational warnings over here on the left-hand side. You can see your this little down guide. This is for code folding. So let's say this function right here, we can collapse it. And that's about it. So you got your syntax highlighting, you have your code folding, and you have basic warning integration. There's no real-time error checking, and there is no code completion. Now, code completion was a requested feature. It may be in the new beta. I'm not sure, but they have acknowledged that it'd be a nice to add. So hopefully that comes in soon. But while we're talking about code for a second, I want to actually mention your other option. Is if you use the other version, you can go two other routes with this. You can either run it all locally and just edit your code as if, well, it's local, so you just edit your code. Or you can use their online system, but hook it up to either a GitHub or a Bitbucket account, which then what you do is you edit your code locally using whatever editor you like. Like I said, myself, I prefer WebStorm, but you could edit with Sublime Text, Notepad, Vi, whatever floats your boat, and then you just do a GitHub commit, it syncs back, and then the PlayCanvas itself will be updated. We saw that earlier in, I believe it was the project settings. Yeah, GitHub. You can integrate them here and put your account and username and password in here, hook up a repository, and then, like I said, you edit your code locally, you sync it out to the GitHub or Bitbucket, and then it's updated accordingly. So you do not have to use their editor at all. But it is handy, especially if you are working in a collaborative project with multiple people working on it. Every time there is an edit that occurs, you'll see this button over here lights up, and when you're done editing, you click save, and it goes away. So that's the extent of your editor. It's built in, it works. In Quickie, it's there. Obviously, it's stripped down quite a bit. There's no refactoring tools. There's no code completion, especially no spell check, which is a terrible thing in an editor anyways, and various other things that you probably have gotten used to in your normal code editor or IDE. So you may want to go one of those other routes. But for quick and dirty, this is definitely an option. It does do decent tab preservation. It does do code markup. It does, like I said, have the folding. The highlighting's decent. There you go. Now the code itself, it's quite clean. I'm not going to get into it at all. That's a topic for an entire film itself. But again, you can see it's very modular in their approach. Just like you make your things out of components otherwise, you kind of build your character the same way. So like this.entity.script, and then the name of the script. You're accessing things as using composition again. Now, one very key thing about when you're dealing with code, let's go ahead and leave that, is your documentation. How well documented is this stuff? And let's move on to documentation for a second. And switch over to the user guide. All this is online, of course. This is a very online-focused product, and you got three sets of documentation available. You've got your user guide. I think we're actually in that. It covers things pretty well. So let's say if you want to bring in, say, scenes in art models. So building your model, here's your documentation on that subject, broken down by the different products. Pretty decent example. And then your next little section would be let's go back, exporting of models. And basic instruction on how to bring it in. Your user manual is pretty solid. Like I said, it covers all these things right here. Some of them can be a little bit sparse. You might be kind of guessing a little bit at the functionality. Some of it is incredibly well documented, but for the most part, every single thing in PlayCanvas is documented. Next, we get over to the code, and the code is your traditional API reference, and it's all your different components or your classes available. And then for each one, so let's go into the model one, for example. It comes in, you see the various properties exposed, and each one is documented to a degree. So it is well documented, clean, searchable, You can go up the inheritance tree and see what each is composed of there. Now, what your catch with HTML projects in general is a lot of times your properties, like this guy, can be very ambiguous because a lot of times you're just passing tables with key set names. And that's one of those areas where sometimes it may not be perfectly documented, like exactly what's expected here. Now, finally, you've got tutorials. And this is an area they've done a really good job of. They've got tutorials here for beginner, intermediate, and advanced level, covering a pretty broad range of the things that you would want to have covered. So from a documentation point of view, PlayCanvas is a very well-supported product. It's definitely good in that regard. So essentially, that's it. This is PlayCanvas, a pretty quick interview. I think we're sitting at about 35 minutes right now. But quick overview of what we just covered. PlayCanvas is an MIT licensed open source HTML5 game editor with full world editor, etc. built in here. Oh, one thing I didn't show you, sorry. There's also miscellaneous views, such as your script explorer, all your scripts of your levels, etc. Should have covered that. But anyways, it is this nice built-in, pretty functional, 3D-based world editor with a light-based code editor or GitHub integration support. Clean, well-documented. I haven't really tested the performance that much. The things I have run sufficiently. You're not going to get Unreal Engine level support here. This is a WebGL engine. Being WebGL, there are some catches there. Like number one, right up front, your 3D models have a 65,536 vertice limit, so you're not going to get super high resolution models in there because WebGL simply doesn't support them. But from my performance, I've never seen it lag out. Now, I'm not trying to create a AAA game in here. I don't think you could create a AAA game in here, but I do think you could create most games here. Most indie games, for sure, could definitely be created in this engine. I think you could easily pull off a Minecraft, for example, or a much more elaborate graphical game than Minecraft. Like it is a capable engine, but I don't know what the performance is. I haven't stressed it. I haven't tested it that hard. So that could be an area that you need to look at before committing too much if your game has strong performance requirements. And of course, being WebGL, being cross-browser, etc., you are going to run into that god-awful sort of supports WebGL, sort of broken web browser from the 2014 or 2012 or whatever that can technically run it, but probably shouldn't. And that's part of HTML5 development. Comes up, you're going to have to deal with it. Ditto with packaging it off into different platforms. The various wrappers do have various issues. So there are going to be some headaches there, but there is also a lot of allure in this write once, run anywhere type of setup, and it's actually getting there. So this is a nice tool that way. As you saw from the 3D export, bringing your own assets into the editor is very simple. Now, I think that might be a paid-only aspect of this engine. I'd have to look into that a little bit further, but I believe it was. So bringing your content in, if you use the open source version of it, is going to be kind of on you. You're going to have to deal with that, I believe. Now, I could be wrong there. It could actually be fully integrated, but I do not believe it is. Other than that, your licensing, once again, looks down to the free version is full functioning other than iOS export, and critically, you're working in public for up to 2 people on the team, and then it starts at $15 a month if you want private repositories and a bigger team. And then you're basically paying for more people and more space going from there up to about $60 a month until you start talking with support, and then you're looking more like $100 a month. So the pricing goes from free and usable for making a free game to about $15 a month to be able to create a small team private game. And realistically, that's where most people will actually probably fall. In either the free category for a free game or $15 a month for a commercial game. And in my opinion, that's actually a very, very reasonable pricing structure. Not really sure what else to cover. Like I said, I didn't really get into the code too much. That would take an entire topic of its own. Let me know if this is a product that you're looking at and go, wow, that's really awesome. I want to see more about this. Definitely let me know, and I will cover it more in Game from Scratch. Truth of the matter is, I don't have a lot of need to cover it, though, because they've nailed it on their tutorials. It's a well-documented project, and a lot of times the ones I focus on are the slightly less well-documented projects because they really need me. But when they've done a good job with the next step, so if you look at this video and you think, wow, I really want to try this guy, you just do it. You're well supported. Everything they've got works for you. They have, let's see, let's go over here. They do have a community and a forum. The developers are very active. I was kind of impressed. Every time I've run into a problem, I went and looked it up. There was generally a developer there. Actually, I believe this is a developer. So as you can see, they're active in almost every thread and every question. Very good support coming from the community. So if it is one of those things that you commit to and you kind of run into a problem, this forum does seem quite active and quite useful. So that's it. That's PlayCanvas. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, of course, leave them below. If you do want to see more coverage, especially if you go through the tutorials and you find certain things lacking, or you just want to see a complete game created in this engine, you know what? I actually enjoyed working in it. So I would be very willing to work in a little bit more if the desire is out there. So again, any feedback and questions, leave them below, and I will do my best to address them. Thank you very much. Goodbye.